Hey, it's Dennis. I want to just talk to you about something quick. I occasionally go on TikTok. It's not really my thing, but sometimes I look at the recovery videos there, and honestly, they're very quick. They're kind of, they're trying to capture your attention, and sometimes they're singing songs about how wonderful sobriety is, and look, I got a year, and those are wonderful. I don't want to take anything away from that. They're inspirational for a lot of people. I just, I don't, like I said, I don't want to take anything they mean really, really well when they're doing it. But I'm trying to do something a little different here, go a little deeper here than that. I will talk about myself from time to time. Well, a lot, but with the hope that you'll maybe say, that sounds familiar, or that sounds like me, or that could be me, and I'm starting to think you're relating to me a little bit. Instead of me just trying to show you how wonderful I am. That's not the point. The point is for you to connect with me, and I know it's YouTube. But I'm hoping that there'll be some sort of thinking while you're watching this, connecting to what I'm saying, and so there's that. And this sort of goes back to my first video on you're not alone. You don't have to be alone anymore. It is important for you to know that if you're an alcoholic or an addict, I know you. I know you, and the more you know me, or rather, the more you discover about yourself, the more you will know me, right? And it's a fantastic thing that happens in recovery, where there's this bond between us, where we know each other so well because our thinking is so similar. And it's like nothing you'll ever hear, right, or have in your life. You'll have people that are super close, of course. I'm not saying that, there's going to be somebody that you love more, somewhere else. But I'm saying that there's going to be a special bond that you have with other people who have been through this. Because there is a certain intimacy in sharing the secrets that you have that you couldn't share with anyone else. And that intimacy is super strong, and it's forever. It's always amazed me how in the 12-step tradition, which is where I come from, so I am a little I'm coming from that reference point. There are other ways of doing recovery that are fine, but I just happened to be the way I got sober. So the point that I'm trying to make is that it's an anonymous program. You come in and you usually just give your first name. You don't even have to give your real first name, right? I knew several people who didn't even want to do that. Doesn't matter really. You will still get to know those people that you don't know their last names. You don't usually know where they live or very much about them, except for the big thing, like you're a fellow addict or alcoholic. It's kind of fascinating, but it's also super important that you understand the bond between you and your fellow addict is stronger and deeper than any other bond that you will have in this sort of angle, right? I'm not saying, again, you have a spouse who is super close and you have a bond that's unbreakable. I'm not talking there's anything competing there. I'm just saying that this bond is a different angle in your life that's so important. And it sort of keeps all the other parts of your life together. We even have a tradition where it's anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions. And it's because everything comes down to, I won't go into that too deeply. But the addiction that you have is such a mind hold on top of you, right? You're almost possessed by this obsession. You are possessed by it, right? It owns you. And that's not small, obviously. And so that bond that you have with your other fellows, your other people that are in addiction, in recovery, it just is so strong. And so I need you to know that. And I also want you to know that I understand the other relationship that you have. I understand this special, strong, unbreakable relationship you have with the bottle or with the drug. I understand the special place that holds in your life, that it is sacred and undeniable and is strong. But you know what? It's killing you one way or another. I also wanted to talk about that, where this addiction, this disease, this alcoholism is killing you one way or another. It's killing you. It's killing your spirit inside, obviously, right? And we can talk about spiritual loss of values, which is kind of important, but I'm not going to talk about it now. But we can talk about what it's doing to you. It's killing your spirit. It's killing your body. My liver was royally getting a beating every day, and I felt it, and it was not good. And you know what I'm talking about if you're that far down. Some of you are not, but you see that your life is in tatters, and everything's falling apart, and it doesn't have to be that way. You may not realize that because giving it up is just unthinkable, right? But it is killing you, and you're going to come to a crossroads where you say, do I want life or death? I also know that most people don't get it. This is a sad, sad part of it all, but not everybody makes it. Most die from it or worse. If you're an addict or an alcoholic, you know what I'm talking about when I say there are some things worse than death. And that's living the hell of an alcoholic addict, getting worse and worse year by year. It is hell. It is just the worst. I knew one person in recovery, and he just couldn't get it, and he was just so tired of it all, and he just overdosed on purpose and killed himself. And it's a terrible, terrible tragedy. And you'll hear things like that. It doesn't have to be that way. And I also know how you feel, like you're so tired of it all. And there was somebody last week in a meeting, and he was an 89-year-old guy, and he said when he came in, he was in the hospital, and they asked him, they said, are you suicidal? Do you want to kill yourself? And he said, no, but I wish I were dead. I think a lot of you know what I'm talking about right there, right? And you also start thinking your life really doesn't matter that much. When you start going further down, you realize maybe everybody would be better off without me. Maybe I'd be better off without me. So that's a lie, first of all. I want you to know you matter. You do matter. And should you, hopefully, I pray that you get sober and clean, you will matter more because you will help others. The worst of my days are the most important of my days when I am thinking about trying to help somebody, because I know the pain. I do. I remember it, and I remind myself constantly. I can never, ever forget what got me in here, what got me to this point. It was the pain. It was the unbearable daily beating I was giving myself. I mean, beating myself. The exhaustion my body just couldn't take anymore, right? But I did it again and again. For 16 years, I was out doing this over and over. It didn't have to go that long. Well, maybe it did. Sometimes we say you have to drink every drink, or you have to use every whatever it is. You do matter. You are important. And there's an army of people out there in recovery who want to help you as an individual. They don't want to turn you into anything. They don't want to force anything on you. They just want to help you. They don't want your money. They don't want anything. They just want to help you. And someday, with some prayers and luck and hard work, you'll be one of those people in the army helping. It's helping someone get sober is one of the most rewarding things you will ever do in your entire life. And I know I'm skipping ahead, right? I'm going all the way to the end of the steps there, but I want you to know there is such a light at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't have to be this way. Take the early steps, like I've said in the other videos, where you can start talking, leave a comment, reach out to me. I don't, I look at every single one of you out there, every single person that's suffering as such a kindred spirit. I'll leave it at this. We see people in cities now in tents. Lots and lots of tents in the world right now. People are living in, shooting up in the tents. That's where your addiction wants you. That person is the natural end of where addiction wants you. Alcohol wants you alone with the bottle. Same with any addiction. It wants you alone with whatever the object is of the addiction. It's a really hard thing to break. And you need to know that you do matter. You matter to a lot of people. Not just your friends and family, but you matter to us as in the community, because without you, we don't exist. You'll also hear, and it's so true, that the newcomer is the most important person that comes in. And it is so true for so many obvious reasons and maybe not so obvious reasons. Anyway, like I said, you matter. I hope you subscribe and stick around. I think I'll do the next one will be on fear. Also want to talk about the pink cloud. And so hopefully you'll stick around and we have a great weekend.